What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another FPL video on the channel. And in today's one, we are going to be looking at the best forwards to buy in FPL at every single price point, and we're also going to be looking at forwards you should be looking to avoid as well. So if you guys do like the sound of that, smash a like on the video, and if we could get to 50 likes on this video, that would be absolutely sensational. And I just want to say a massive thank you for all the support over the pre-season period. It's been sensational from you guys, so thank you so much. But with that being said, let's get straight into it. We're going to start off by talking about the main man, Erling Haaland, right? Priced at 14 million. And in my opinion, I think he's a fantastic pick to start the season. And you guys know that have been watching the channel, I actually prefer him over Mohamed Salah to start the season. And I know some of you guys might think that's absolutely ridiculous to say, but honestly, I think Erling Haaland, he is being disrespected by the entire FPL community, guys, right? At the time of recording, he's only got, guys, 19% ownership, which is absolutely ridiculous. This man here, Erling Haaland, is being massively disrespected, and I genuinely believe in my heart that to start the season, he's a better pick than Mohamed Salah. I'm going to say it. I'm going to put my neck on the line and say it. I think the fixtures, the opening 3 games, right, are a lot better for Man City over Liverpool. And I think people are forgetting. People are starting to doubt Erling Haaland's goal scoring ability. Like, guys, have we just, forgot what Erling Haaland is capable of doing? When you talk about guaranteed goals, you talk about Erling Haaland. When you talk about a world-class number 9, you talk about Erling Haaland. This is a bona fide elite world-class number 9 who guarantees goals. And I think people are starting to forget that. I do understand last season, right, he didn't perform to the best of his abilities, but still, in what was considered an off season for Erling Haaland, he still managed to get 22 goals, right? And as I said, we know what Erling Haaland is capable of doing. We know his record, his amazing goal scoring record at the start of the Premier League season, but not only just the Premier League, in other leagues he's played in, he's always started off well. And for me, Erling Haaland, right, he is just an asset waiting to explode, right? An asset waiting to explode. And I think people are really forgetting what this man here is capable of. As I said, I think the disrespect on this man's name is absolutely ridiculous. I can't believe only 19 or 20% of FPL managers own this man. Absolutely ridiculous. I like the opening fixtures, and yeah, as I said, guys, for me, when you talk about a world-class number 9, that's what Erling Haaland is. So as I said, guys, I'm not just saying it for the sake of saying it. I've got Erling Haaland in my current draft, and I've had Erling Haaland in every single draft I've made, right? So look, for me, Erling Haaland, love him as a pick. I do think, yeah, he is low-key being disrespected by the FPL community. A lot of people are twerking for Mohamed Salah, and I can understand why, because Salah last season was absolutely ridiculous, but I think a little bit more respect needs to be put on Erling Haaland, man. But of course, look, I could be wrong, right? Haaland could stink up the place and Salah could get 6 goals in his first 3 games and make me look like an absolute idiot. I'm not FPL expert, so don't shoot the messenger, but I'm just here to give my honest FPL opinions, and this is truly what I believe. So yeah, man, let's just see what happens at the start of the season. But for me, Erling Haaland, he's definitely a buy, and I think he's a better pick to start the season over Mohamed Salah. So yeah, man, let's just see what happens there. Now we also do have Alexander Isak coming in at the price of 10.5 million, and look, for me, he's a hard avoid. Do not go anywhere near Alexander Isak while this transfer speculation, this transfer rumor is going on. I don't really know what's going to happen. Is he going to stay at Newcastle? Is he going to stay at Liverpool? I don't know. Of course, Alexander Isak is a fantastic number 9, but right now, I just think it's not worth including him in at your game week 1 drafts, because we just don't know what's going to happen. Is he, even if he does complete his move to Liverpool, is he even going to be ready for game week 1? Has he even had much of a pre-season? I don't think he has. So look, for me, I just think, yeah, Alexander Isak, quality player, but while this, transfer rumor stuff is going on with Liverpool, I would just avoid him. So yeah, for me, not much to say on him for now. Don't pick him. That's just my honest opinion. Now let's talk about Victor Gyökeres. He is coming in at a price of 9 million, which is very nice. Now look, for me to start the season, I don't think I would go for Gyökeres. I think I would avoid him because the fixtures for Arsenal aren't really that good in my opinion. But I will say there will be times throughout the season where most likely all of us FPL managers will own that man right there, Victor Gyökeres, because what he's shown at Sporting was that he can score goals for fun. He can bang in the goals. Even the Arsenal fans, they're calling him Glock 9 for a reason, because he is a real goal scorer, right? So yeah, for me, I don't doubt the ability of the player. I think he will score goals in the Premier League, but in terms of starting him in game week 1 and having him in your FPL team for like the first 6 game weeks, I don't think that's a good idea, because I don't think the fixtures are there for Victor Gyökeres. In terms of minutes as well, what I will say is that at the time of recording, in the last pre-season game for Arsenal, he did start, but he only got 60 minutes. And Arteta did mention that Havertz did have like a slight niggle, right? A slight small injury, more of a precautionary thing, which is why Havertz didn't play in the last game, in the last preseason game for Arsenal. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on. Maybe Victor Gyökeres's chance of starting in game week 1 has slightly increased if Havertz does have a minor injury, but whether or not Havertz, whether or not Gyökeres will start, that's not really the main talking point for me. That's not really the reason why I think he's an avoid. It's more just because of the fixtures. I don't think the fixtures are there for Gyökeres. I think at his price point, 9 million, I'd much rather buy Ollie Watkins, right? I'd much rather start off with Ollie Watkins and then move on to Gyökeres, because also it gives you time to see, you know, how will Gyökeres adjust to the league as well. Of course, as I said, I don't doubt his ability, but I think the much safer pick at that price point is definitely Ollie Watkins. And speaking of Ollie Watkins, guys, let's talk about Ollie Watkins, because for me, he is probably one of, if not my favourite forward option to start the season with. I think he's going to be an absolutely sensational pick, and to be honest with you, he's an absolute lock in my FPL team. Simple as that. Ollie Watkins is the man. If you don't have Ollie Watkins in your FPL team, what on earth are you doing? That's all I have to say. Of course, I'm no FPL expert, I already said it, but seriously guys, what on earth are you doing without this man Ollie Watkins in your team? The opening fixtures are absolutely fantastic for Aston Villa from game weeks 1 to game week 7. It's a fantastic fixture run that Aston Villa does have. He's guaranteed to start. He's pretty much guaranteed 90 minutes, and he's a Premier League proven player. We know he can score goals for fun. So for me, Ollie Watkins, yeah. If you don't have him in your team, I genuinely don't know what you're doing. That's all I have to say, because for me, I think him and Morgan Rogers, actually, at the time of recording, he did get subbed off injured in the last game, which is an issue. But if Morgan Rogers is fit, Ollie Watkins and Morgan Rogers, they're absolute locks in my teams, and I think they should be locked in your teams too. Because for me, I think the starts is there. The 90-minute games are there for Ollie Watkins. There's no John Duran, there's no Marcus Rashford to really interfere with his minutes. So for me, if I know he's going to start week in, week out, if I know he's going to get 90 minutes and the fixtures are there for Ollie Watkins, why on earth would I not have him? Because he's Premier League proven. We know he can score goals. So at 9 million, I love him as a pick. Look, let's talk about Hugo Ekitike coming in at the price of 8.5 million. I think my thoughts on Ekitike being a good FPL pick really just depends on whether Isak goes to Liverpool or not. I think if Isak stays at Newcastle, then Ekitike is a really tasty pick at 8.5. I do think he could offer some serious value. But if Isak goes to Liverpool, then he's a straight avoid. Simple as that. So for me, what I would say, because of that, right, because I don't think the transfer window closes until game week 3, I do believe. So during game weeks 1 and 2, the transfer window will still be open. So because of that, I would just say avoid Ekitike for now, because you never know, Isak might move to Liverpool in the next 3 weeks or so, right? And that will be near game week 2, near game week 3. So you don't want to be in a place where you've already got Ekitike in your team and then you kind of have to remove him because Liverpool bought Isak. So for me, while the transfer window is still open, I would just avoid Ekitike. However, after that, if like by game week 4, for example, by the time the transfer window is shut, if Isak is still at Newcastle, I think Ekitike could be a pretty solid option, to be honest with you, because I think in terms of starts and minutes, he'll be pretty decent. He won't have too much competition. So look, yeah, for me, I think Hugo Ekitike, for now, he's an avoid. Now, in terms of Gerard Bowen, 8 million, I think he is probably one of the most consistent and reliable forwards you can get in this game. Honestly, I think Gerard Bowen, really, really good pick. I like him a lot. He's currently not in my draft at the moment. Look, West Ham aren't necessarily the best attacking team, but regardless of them being a good attacking team or not, Bowen is, as I said, really, really reliable. But for me, there's other, I've only got 3 striker slots, right? And there's other strikers that I do prefer over Gerard Bowen. But that doesn't mean I don't think Gerard Bowen is a good option. Like, although I don't have Gerard Bowen in my team, it also does scare me a little bit because he is just so consistent. And when you think of West Ham scoring goals, you just think of Gerard Bowen. Like, Gerard Bowen is always involved in the goals and assists. He starts every single week. He gets 90 minutes every single game. Like, he is just a really, really good, consistent FPL asset that ticks along very, very nicely. So I love him as an FPL pick. Absolutely love him. But for me, the reason why I've not got him is because I'm just not a fan of their fixtures to start the season. Yes, I know Sunderland away from home in game week 1 is absolutely fantastic. You can't really get much better than that. But after that, it's Chelsea at home, who are a good defence. It's Nottingham Forest away, who are a good defence. Is Tottenham at home under Thomas Frank. Whether or not they're going to be a good defence is to be confirmed, but Thomas Frank is a decent manager and Spurs do have good players on paper in their defence. And then they've got Crystal Palace and then Everton away. So I just think the fixtures aren't that great in terms of, you know, for an attacker. I don't really rate these fixtures a lot. I think his fixtures get a lot better from game week 8 onwards. That's where I like Bowen. When he's got Brentford at home, Leeds away, Newcastle at home, Burnley at home. You know, these are a lot better fixtures in my opinion. So for me, to start the season, I'm not a fan of West Ham's fixtures, and therefore I personally am going to avoid Bowen. Doesn't mean you should too, because as I said, I still think regardless of those fixtures, he still is a good FPL asset, because at the end of the day, it is Bowen. He can score in the bigger games against the tougher teams, but I'm willing to bet against Bowen because I personally don't rate these fixtures too much. Then we also do have Kai Havertz at the price of 7.5 million. As I said, when talking about Gyökeres, Arteta did mention about Kai Havertz possibly having a small little minor injury. More of a precautionary thing, but still, even if he was fit to play, I would avoid him. I just think with Gyökeres there, he's going to be the main starting number 9 for Arsenal, right? As simple as that. So yeah, for me, even if Havertz was fit, he'd be a player that would just be waiting to be transferred out of your FPL team, because Gyökeres will start sooner or later. I honestly believe there's potential for Gyökeres to start in game week 1, but if he doesn't in game week 2, I think he starts. So for me, yeah, I would just be avoiding Kai Havertz. There's really no point in going there if we're being totally honest. Now, next up, we do have Yohan Wissa coming in at the price of 7.5 million. He had a really good season last season, right? Bagging 18 goals, 6 assists in the Premier League. But I will say, I think he's a hard avoid. I wouldn't go anywhere near Yohan Wissa at that price point. No way, Jose. There's so many better FPL picks you can get at 7.5 million. I would stay far away from Yohan Wissa. Yes, I know he cooked last season, but guys, I'm expecting a massive drop off with Brentford this season. They've lost their manager, right? They've lost key players like Brian Mbeumo, Christian Norgard. Of course, they lost their goalkeeper Flecken, and yes, they have replaced him with Kelleher, who is a good goalkeeper. But overall, right, the main thing is they've lost Thomas Frank, they've lost Brian Mbeumo, they've lost Norgard, right? That's 3 key components of Brentford's, I guess, success relative to their club, right, last season. So look, for me, I wouldn't go anywhere near Yohan Wissa. I think the manager that they've got in as well isn't proven, right? He was a set piece coach before. So for me, as I said, I'm expecting a massive drop off with Brentford, and for that reason, I'd stay far away from Yohan Wissa, man. At the price of 7.5 million, you can get far better options like Chris Wood, like Solanke, even Ilson at 7 million I prefer. Big boy Jean-Philippe Mateta. Most strikers here that you can see on this page, I actually prefer over Yohan Wissa. So yeah, for me, I think stay far away from Yohan Wissa. There's absolutely no point. Let's move on to João Pedro coming in at the price of 7.5 million, man. You guys know what I think about João Pedro. You guys that have been watching the channel know what I think about this absolute fraud. I don't know why the whole entire FPL community is shaking their bum for João Pedro. This guy's got more than 50% ownership, which is absolutely ridiculous for me. Absolutely ridiculous. Yes, I know Chelsea have amazing fixtures to start the season, but for me, João Pedro, right, at 7.5 million, he's gone up by 2 million, right? Last season he was 5.5, and in my opinion, he's actually got worse as an FPL asset. He's not guaranteed to start week in, week out, especially when Champions League football starts. He's not guaranteed 90 minutes. He'll most likely be getting subbed off every game for Liam Delap. And he's no longer on penalties. At Brighton, right? At Brighton, he was guaranteed to start every week. He was on penalties and guaranteed 90 minutes. I just don't understand the thinking behind picking João Pedro. We cannot trust him as an FPL asset. It's simple as that. The man cannot be trusted. And even when he did start for Brighton, he was very unreliable, and the majority of his goals came from the penalty spot, which now he doesn't have in this Chelsea team. And yes, I understand, you might argue he's probably going to score more goals because he's in a better team, playing with better players like Cole Palmer, Enzo Fernandez, etc. I do understand that, yes, he's in a better team, but he's going to get far less minutes than he did at Brighton, in my opinion. And I think there'll be even times where João Pedro does get benched, especially when Champions League football starts, man, because I think Delap is more than good enough to start some games in that Chelsea team, right? And of course, I think a lot of people being very reactionary to the Club World Cup performances of João Pedro, because for me at Brighton, he wasn't this yes, he was a good player, right? But not many people were sort of hyping up João Pedro when he was at Brighton the way they are now that he's at Chelsea. And I just think the Club World Cup performances, just the 2 games, have really just like what João Pedro did in the Club World Cup, he didn't show that at Brighton. Those finishes that you saw, right? He was not shooting like that. He was not finishing like that at Brighton. So don't let that sample size of just 2 games at Chelsea cannot overwrite what we saw at Brighton, right? For me, João Pedro's never been this sort of mad clinical finisher. He's been a good technical footballer, good at linking up play, quite skillful, but he's never been this elite finisher that I think now people think he is because of the goals that he scored at Chelsea in the Club World Cup. So look, for me, I know what I saw with my eyes with João Pedro at Brighton, right? A lot of his goals came from the penalty spot. He's no longer got those penalty spots, and he's a massive rotation risk. At his price point, 7.5, I prefer other options, right? That's truthfully my opinion on João Pedro. Now look, let's talk about big boy Jean-Philippe Mateta. I absolutely love him as a pick, man. Really do. He's definitely someone I think you should be looking to buy. I think, look, in terms of the opening fixtures for Crystal Palace, it's not great because it's Chelsea away, then Nottingham Forest at home. I think Aston Villa away actually isn't that bad of a fixture for Crystal Palace, especially Crystal Palace as a team. They do quite well against Aston Villa in recent years, but I think for an attacker, playing against Aston Villa isn't too bad. But I think the Nottingham Forest game and the Chelsea game is pretty tough because they are 2 strong defences in the Premier League. But I think if you are thinking more long term, then I really do like big boy Jean-Philippe Mateta. Yeah, man, really good. Of course, he's guaranteed to start, pretty much guaranteed 90 minutes, and also does have the potential of penalties as well. So yeah, I think Jean-Philippe Mateta, man, really good asset to have. I think him and Eze are definitely my favourite 2 Crystal Palace players to go for. And let's talk about this man here, man, Chris Wood. Again, coming in at the price of 7.5 million. Had an absolutely fantastic season last season, right? You guys know the amount of pain and suffering Chris Wood caused me last season was out of this world, right? 20 goals in the Premier League, outperformed his expected goals by a huge amount. Was just really clinical last season. And you know what? I do like Chris Wood as an option to start the season. I really do. I think the fixtures for Nottingham Forest are fantastic. And I think for me personally, Nottingham Forest have the best fixtures to start the season in terms of the opening 6 games. You know, they got Brentford at home in game week 1, Crystal Palace away in game week 2, and then after that West Ham at home in game week 3. And even after that, guys, the fixtures are just really good. I think in game week 4 they do play against Arsenal away from home. That's like their only tough game. But other than that, right, other than the Arsenal game in game week 4, it's just so good. In game week 5 it's Burnley away and then Sunderland at home. So you can see from game week 1 to game week 6, their fixture run is really good. So I think if there is ever a time to go for Chris Wood, it certainly is now, in my opinion. My only concern with Chris Wood is because they have signed a new number 9, Igor Jesus. I just do wonder, is he going to be the 90-minute man anymore? Is he going to get benched in some games? Because we know that Nottingham Forest do have, for the opening 3 game weeks, they're going to be playing in the European qualifiers as well. So they're going to be playing, I think, Thursday and Sunday. Thursday, Sunday. So because of that, does Chris Wood get 90 minutes in the Premier League games? Does he even get benched in the odd game? They're the sort of questions I'm asking myself. So that's the only small doubt I've got about Chris Wood. But I still think, because the fixtures are genuinely so good, I do think it could be worth just starting with Chris Wood and taking that risk, especially if Dominic Solanke is injured. And let's move on. That's a perfect segue to Dominic Solanke, because you guys know my thoughts and feelings on Dominic Solanke. I think he's an absolutely fantastic pick, right? Absolutely fantastic pick, because I think the fixtures for Spurs really good to start the season. Their long-term fixtures are fantastic. And look, with Thomas Frank, right, I've said this so many times, but he's managed to get the best out of his attackers in the Premier League, right? Always give the example of Yohan Wissa, Ivan Toney, Brian Mbeumo, Kevin Schade. All these players have outperformed themselves in the Premier League and done so well under his management and in his systems. And I do believe Solanke does have the qualities to deliver in the same way that Yohan Wissa delivered last season, for example. You know, Yohan Wissa isn't the most clinical finisher, but the Thomas Frank system allows his number 9s to get a lot of big chances created for them. And I think if Dominic Solanke can get those big chances created for him in that Spurs team, he will get a lot of goals. And I think at his price point, 7.5 million, he is probably my most favourite pick, because I think the fixtures are certainly there for Spurs as well. So if he can stay fit, I love him as an option. I really do love him as an option. But that is the $1 million question. Can he stay fit? Because so far this pre-season, he's not been playing with Spurs. So I think the big thing is, if he gets some minutes in the next friendly for Spurs, I think they play against Bayern. If he does get some minutes in that game, really positive. And if he does play in the Super Cup as well, if he starts in the Super Cup against PSG, then I think he will be in my team no matter what. But I will say, if he does not play against Bayern in the next friendly, and if he doesn't start against PSG, I think avoiding Solanke might just be the play. I think it's too risky to go there. I think it is very, very risky to go there. So yeah, the next week or so, we'll find out whether Solanke will be a good pick. But yeah, in terms of what I think of him as an FPL pick, I think if he's fit, absolutely fantastic. So yeah, let's wait and see what happens with that. But yeah, we also do have Evanilson here at 7 million. I feel like he's going slightly under the radar, guys. I do think Evanilson is going slightly under the radar. I think for me, that Liverpool game in game week 1 is kind of making people avoid Evanilson. I mean, his ownership is ridiculously low, only 2.5% ownership for Evanilson, and I think that's kind of ridiculous because I think the fixtures are actually really good for Bournemouth. Of course, they've got Liverpool in game week 1, which is frustrating, but after that, the fixtures are really, really good, man. Wolves at home, I like. Tottenham away could be quite tricky. But then after that, it's Brighton at home, Newcastle at home, Leeds away, Fulham at home, Palace away, and then Forest at home, then City. So it gets tougher from like game week 9, 10. But honestly, outside of the Liverpool game, from game weeks 2 all the way up until game weeks 8 or 9, I think the fixtures for an attacker are really, really good. So yeah, for me, I think Evanilson is a player that also does get a lot of chances created for him in that Areola system. He's really, really good for those big chances. So I think, you know, he is capable of scoring goals. He's capable of getting chances created for him. I actually think he's a good pick. Now, we do have a Danny Welbeck here. For me, he's an avoid. I wouldn't really go anywhere near Danny Welbeck. I don't like the fixtures that Brighton have at all. And I just think, yeah, for me, if I'm going to be spending 6.5 million on a forward, there are other options that I like. I just don't like Danny Welbeck. It's literally a case of, for me, the fixtures just not being good enough. There's plenty of strikers out there in FPL to get that have much better fixtures, but also similar goal scoring capabilities and probabilities as well. So look, for me, I would avoid Danny Welbeck. I just wouldn't go anywhere near him, and as simple as that. If the fixtures were better, I definitely would consider him. Let's move on to the next set of players, right? Ranging from 6.5 million to 5.5 million. We do have Liam Delap. For me, again, he's a hard avoid. I don't expect him to get many starts. I think João Pedro will start more games than him, and most of Liam Delap's appearances will be substitute appearances. So he'll probably get 30 minutes in a game, which is, again, a reason for me just to avoid him, right? Don't bother do it to yourself. It's just not worth it. Anyone that is considering picking Delap needs to really have a look in the mirror. What are you doing? What is going on here, guys? Seriously. Yeah, for me, Liam Delap, he shouldn't be considered at all. He's a hard avoid. It's simple as that. Now, look, let's move on to Raul Jimenez. I actually think Raul Jimenez could be quite a decent pick, if I'm being honest. I don't really like him to start the season because I think the fixtures are quite tough. It's Brighton away, then United at home, and then Chelsea away. But after that, I do think, right, there is potential there for Raul Jimenez to be a pretty decent pick, especially if Rodrigo Muniz does leave and complete a transfer to Leeds. If that happens, then I don't mind Jimenez as a pick, man, because he's Premier League proven. He managed to get 12 goals and 3 assists last season in the Premier League. And I think, look, as I said, the fixtures after game week 3 are pretty decent. You know, he's got Leeds at home in 4, Brentford at home in 5. That's very, very good there. Villa away is tough in game week 6, and then Bournemouth away. I think after that, of course, Arsenal and Newcastle is very, very tough. But then again, from game week 10, he's got Wolves at home, Everton away, and Sunderland at home. So I think there's some pretty decent games in there from game week 4 to game week 13. I would definitely say if you can maybe use him as a rotation piece in your team where you're able to start him in the better games and bench him in the tougher games, I think Jimenez could be a pretty decent pick. Especially if you're looking to sort of have like a good overall squad where, again, you can rotate players, then I think Jimenez could be a pretty decent pick and definitely worth considering. But for now, in terms of game week 1, I would avoid him, but definitely he's one to keep an eye on because I think there will be times in the season where he could be a fantastic FPL pick. Now we do have Strand Larsen coming in at a price of 6.5 million. He is probably my favorite 6.5 million midfield forward, if I'm being totally honest. I think there's potential. He's on penalties, and I think the fixtures for Wolves are really, really good as well. Of course, the game week 1 fixture again is a tough one against Man City away from home, and again, similar situation to Evanilson. I think that's the main reason why not many people are including Strand Larsen in their teams. For me, he is definitely someone to consider, definitely someone I've got in my thoughts. He's not currently in my team, but I'm paying close attention to Strand Larsen because I think he can offer some fantastic value. I think he will score goals. Last season, as I said, 14 goals in the Premier League in his first season. That's a very, very good return. Now, we do have Igor Thiago for Brentford coming in at the price of 6 million. as I said when speaking about Wissa, I personally would avoid Brentford assets, right? I don't like any Brentford assets. I would avoid, if I'm being totally honest. Don't really like them as FPL picks, and as I said, I do expect to see a massive drop off, but their fixtures are pretty decent to start the season. I think at his price point, he is one of my favourites. I think it is definitely between Thiago and Fulkrug, right? They're my two favourite options at the price of 6 million. If I'm being totally honest, I do prefer Fulkrug though. I must say, Fulkrug is someone I actually want to speak about because I do prefer him over Thiago at that price point. And if I was to pick one 6 million forward, it would be Fulkrug. He's done pretty well in pre-season, right? He scored a few goals, and I just think he's playing in a 2 right up front with Gerard Bowen, and I think they could form a nice little partnership together. Like, Fulkrug was a pretty decent player in Bundesliga who did score quite a few goals, but he has had some injury difficulties. But if he can stay fit, I don't mind him as a pick at that price point, 6 million, especially because you guys, would have heard me say that I'm not a big fan of the opening fixtures for West Ham. I think the Sunderland fixture is good, but after that, I think I just think after that Sunderland game, the fixtures are a bit tough. But because he's so cheap at the price of 6 million, you might be in a situation where you can rotate him. And I think if you are in that position where you can rotate Fulkrug in and out of the team when the fixtures do get better, honestly think he could be a really good pick and a really good differential at his price point, 6 million. Now, we also do have Tierno Berry and Beto of Everton, right, as the final two players for this video. Now, I would avoid both of these players simply because I just don't know who's going to start, and I would expect also both of these players to get some starts and some benchings. Like, I don't think either players will get 90 minutes, right? Whoever starts will most definitely get subbed off for the other striker. And also, I just couldn't tell you who's going to start in game week 1. David Moyes has mentioned about, being frustrated with Beto's performances. So maybe Berry gets the nod against Leeds. I'm not too sure. But for me, because of that uncertainty with who's going to start, I would just avoid both of them. I think the fixtures are actually good for Everton. The opening fixtures are good for Everton. But for me, the uncertainty of who's going to start and also just the potential rotation, and again, whoever starts isn't going to get 90 minutes. So yeah, for me, all those reasons, I would just put both Berry and Beto as an avoid. I don't like them as FPL picks, if I'm being totally honest. But that is going to be it for today's video. I really do hope you enjoyed. If you did, smash a like on the video, guys. If you can get to 50 likes, that would be absolutely fantastic. Thank you for the amazing support during pre-season. It's not long now until the season starts, and I generally cannot wait. So yeah, man, thank you guys for watching. Smash a like, subscribe, turn on post notifications if you haven't already, and yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next one. But until then, I'm out. Peace.